Mind Heritage Empowering Mind.
My topic today is very interesting. Leading with emotional intelligence. When was the time you learned about emotional intelligence? When was the first time you heard about emotional intelligence? And we very well know that for you to thrive in this modern era, you need to have emotional intelligence. But what does it mean? Emotional intelligence simply means be seen, be understood, and be heard. If we are here, when you are talking about the other people and telling them what you feel about them, what you know about them, and the animal you are relating with them, that is emotional intelligence. Many of us here did things when we have died. On that day, and this gentleman was, yes, this lady was, but I was seated there and I was like, these people are very lucky. How intelligent are they that they have heard what people talk about them? But we very well know that in our leadership roles, we need emotional intelligence. And Daniel Goleman put up 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. The first is self-knowledge, self-management, empathy, social skills, and motivation. I'll repeat. I see people writing. 1, self-knowledge, self-management, empathy, social skills, and motivation. But if you're hearing, or if you've had an opportunity to get into a training of emotional intelligence, many people allude to these 5 pillars. How many of us have to-do list for this year? How many of us have achieved 1%? 2%? And more. Yeah. Now for you, fall in the outliers. Many of us at the beginning of the year, we buy new diaries and journals and write. But come this time and you ask them, where is the last time you opened it was the last time you're writing? So it simply means that there is a missing link. And I want to discuss the missing link. You can go and buy Daniel Goleman's book, Emotional Intelligence. It talks about the 5. But if you don't have these 3 aspects, you're going to fall into the trap of motivational speaking. So I've understood the brain, and I know that it's until we transform the mind that we become better and do better. So how do you be seen, be understood, and be heard? We are leaders, but it's not our leadership, it's how we lead ourselves and lead the people that we're in charge of, right? So are they being seen, be understood, and be heard? I don't know. But let's deconstruct it. Now, who can show me where the mind is? The mind is not here. How many of us pointed here? All of us. Why? The mind is not here. It's not here. Let me use an accent. It's not here. The mind is here. Everything entails you and around you is the mind. I'm a Christian. The Bible says, be renewed by the transformation of your mind. It doesn't mean a thing in the head. It means a thing outside of you, but pushed by you. So the mind is not here, the mind is everywhere. So when you look at the mind, it's just like a TV station. Or if you have smart screens, I know many of us, I can see, we have TVs at our home. When you look at that TV, if you don't turn it on, it's useless. Then you have to look for a channel. Which one? UBS, WBS, blah, blah, blah. You have to control it. Many of us have not controlled our minds so that we can receive from it. So the mind, everything harbors the thoughts, which is the brain designed to think, flight and fight, and store. Basic functions. But as you're seated there looking at me, for example, Madina, yes. You're looking at me, but you're thinking. Right? And at times when I ask, what are you thinking? You'll say, no, I'm not thinking. But you are. At times we do not know what we think. So an average human being has 56 thoughts in less than a minute. Factual truth. average 56. As you're looking at me, you're already thinking. Now, out of the 56, we know 80 are negative. Yes. That's why you look at her jump and you're like, doesn't even look good on her. Or she has plaited her hair, you're like, that is old style. Or that products of negativity, right? Haters. But for me, that is not news. We are always hating. But out of the 80, 95 to 96 are repetitive. So the way you woke up yesterday, the way you thought yesterday and last year is the same way you're still thinking. Albert Einstein calls it habituality. Human beings are products of habits. What you ate the other day, when you go to a cafeteria, it's the same thing you're going to put on your plate. And remember, some people add pineapples on top of the food. Yes. So we are products of habits. But how can you be seen, be understood, and be heard if you can't change the way you think? You want to do good, be good, and see to be doing good. You cannot if you cannot know how you think. So out of the 56, 80, and 96 being repetitive, and then you turn up the same way. You write a diary, I'm going to do good this, but it doesn't come that way. So how do we change our thought pattern so that we can be seen, be understood, and be heard? If you want to be seen, be heard, and be understood, the first thing is to change the way you think. Is there a difference between thought and thinking? We are adults. Many of us have graduated. Thought and thinking. So, if you can't change the way you think, then you can't change the way you feel, then you can't change the way you act. Yes? We shall get to that. Now, how do you change your thought? How do you change the 56 thoughts? How many of us have heard the word meditation? How many of us have tried to meditate? Where is he going? He has been told that there is heaven somewhere. But I find it very interesting that actually we have been taught how not to think. Meditation is not finding a quiet place. Some people think it's the mantras and the you sit cross-legged and no. That is a cliche. It doesn't work that way. At my master's, one of the research I did was I had to go to India to identify. I'd studied the brain. Then I wanted to know, are these things so real? They tell us, as the Christians, sorry about that, the wise men came from the east, and India falls in that. But I came to realize actually meditation is not finding a quiet place. Neither is it sitting cross-legged. Neither is it mantraing something or listening to a certain sound. No. You will do that and you'll come back and you'll meet me, you'll still have negativity in you. Meditation simply means, this is the simplest example I can use. The limbed animals, those who chew gut, those animals that ruminants. Now they tell us they're ruminants, but these animals, when they open them in the morning and go out to graze, they'll pick everything, but when they get to a time, they go back on their limbs and sit and bring it back. Right? And they start to select. Now meditation is just like that. Are you able to see your 56 thoughts? When you're thinking, do you watch yourself thinking, or you're a product of thinking itself? As the Declanter said, I think so I am. It's philosophical, but if you can catch yourself thinking, like I'm here and I'm thinking, what time, how many minutes do I have, when am I going to finish? I'm meditating. It is from being a partaker and you become an observer of the 56 thoughts. In the Jews, how many of us are married? Church marriage. With the rings. Yes. I'm a Christian, they say, when you marry somebody, in the English, you have to take after their name. I'm Gardner. If I get married to her, I should be called Gardner. Do you know what that literally means? I'm fully responsible over you, so I can control you. I have power over you, right? That is what it's supposed to be. When you name a thought, you have power over it. It doesn't have power over you. Altogether. So how do you name it? You can't name it if you've not understood it or seen it. So you have to see yourself, the 56. Like, what am I thinking? Are there moments when you see somebody and you're like, this person is going to piss me off? You're seeing it. That means you're seeing the thought and the emotion coming. And when you see it, actually, you don't get pissed because you had seen it coming, right? Yes. So that's what we do in meditation. You don't have to have a place or a moment. It is a way of being. You keep catching your thoughts. The 56 thoughts. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? What am I doing? And you can't do that if you don't stop. Let's breathe in. You stopped and breathed out. I didn't tell you breathe out. So I told you breathe in. So that stop is what makes you a human being. You breathe in and get to a stop and breathe out. This room is not a room if you didn't have a space. Right? So that space is very important. That every time, if you can stop, it's the beginning of intelligence. If somebody is pissing you off, just stop and hold your breath. You're like, by the time you release it, it has passed. So you need to stop. She says up, but you have not tried it. You need to stop, then watch yourself. Watch the thought. How is it coming from? Which part of my body? We shall get to that. And the third, after you have stopped and watched, you need now, there are two talks that we have. We have the inner talk and the outer talk. The small talks in our heads that tell us you cannot do it. You're inadequate. You know, ancestors, somebody's blaming. You keep blaming, but you have the power. Then we have another talk that says, you are enough. You can do it. Please try it out. So which voice are you listening to when you stop and understand? That determines how you react. So the thoughts, we break them down in those three simple ways. One, we need to stop. Two, we need to understand. Okay, now I'm getting angry. Now, the other thing is the small talk. What does this anger speak to me? Am I angry, or it is an emotional thought that is making me angry? You've had people that I naturally hate her, or I naturally hate him. It cannot be natural. There is something about her or him that you hate. It's not the entire them. It's just because we have not stopped to understand which part of him that I don't like or I hate. So the second is, after the thoughting and thinking, the way we feel. Where is your heart? Now you're scared to tell me. You're scared to show how ignorant we are. Where is the heart? So what is the function from the heart? To pump blood. So what do we say? Why do we say that? My heart is broken. They are enough. Yes. Now the heart. The heart. Speak with me, the heart. The heart. Somebody asked me in our previous, we have a mentorship group of adults like you. So somebody asked me, do we love from the heart or we love from the brain? So where? As you're seated there, an average human being has 60 to 70 heartbeats. No more. But when it decreases to 80 to 90 and 100, they will say what? Pressure. Not so. But the challenge is, why is it increasing? And whenever your heart increases the beats, do you know what it affects? The brain. That's where when you have fear, some people will tell you, my heart will beat harder or faster. And that's the moment when the brain goes in flight and fight. So you cannot think, you cannot even remember your name if they ask you in that moment. That's why people, prepared your PowerPoint to do a presentation, you go in front of the CEO, MD, the board, and you're like, You start sweating, the heart is beating. Even the first slide of introduction, you forget it. What does it do? The heart affects the way you think, because it's the feeling that goes to the thinking. And your thinking and feeling creates the action. If you read Atomic Habits, it talks about how does a habit come into play, right? It is the thought, the body, the thought, the body, and when the body becomes familiar with that, so it no longer sends signals to the brain, now it becomes a routine, automatic, that you do anything even without thoughting or thinking, if you may like. So an average human being has 50, 60, 78 average heartbeats. You remember the story of the rabbit and the tortoise? The hyena, yes. And the tortoise, slow but sure, wins the race.
It was the rabbit. Yeah, and the tortoise.
The hare and the tortoise. Yes, they never tell us why the tortoise won the race. It's slow metabolic movement enabled it to continue, slow but sure. I'll get there. The heartbeat was very low. When you come, as you're looking at me, you're thinking right, you're feeling right. And that's the moment when everything around you becomes right, because your heartbeat is normal. So if you cannot control your heartbeat, you can't control the way you think. And if you can't control the way you think, you can't control the way you act. Right? So how do we control our heartbeats? 1, gratitude. Gratitude is attitude. It affects the way you feel and affects the way you think. We are in the loophole of wanting and desiring. But that loophole is that you lose sight of what you have in line of what you desire to have. And we know statistically that we don't use, an average human being uses 30% of their phones. Do you appreciate what you have? I don't know what positions you hold. Can you utilize that position to the fullest? Many of us do not. And me, that's what hits it all. I can give you 5 of them, but I normally emphasize on gratitude. That's everything. We search to become who we already are. The Bible says Adam and Eve, you're created in God's image and likeness. The devil comes in. Do you want to become like? You're ready. Because they're not grateful for what they already are, they already want to become what they already are. Right? Now, that is your heart. And I normally give 1 point. Gratitude. If you can do that, you can manage. The second, which is the ice cream on the cake. Can you feel your heartbeat? We have lived. I don't know your years, I don't want to ask. But I can assure you, nobody has spent time to feel their heartbeat. How many of us have? By show of hands. If you can feel your heartbeat, then you can feel how the other person feels. Simple. You cannot feel how I feel if you cannot feel how you feel. Right? That's what Daniel Goleman calls empathy. Is feeling the way you feel and what another person would feel. So spend some time when you leave this place. Feel your heartbeat. How does it feel to breathe? And how does it feel to inhale and exhale? Inhale and exhale. If you can do that. So now you know how you think, the 56. You know your heart. And our heart harbors our emotions. How many emotions do we have as an average human being? You cannot know because you even don't know the emotions. Because the word emotions is not in our vocabulary as Africans. That's why mental health is at its rise. We don't have it in our vocabulary at all. We know if you're mentally ill or you're mulalu.
Yeah.
No mushas. No mugwira. But no. We have over 27 emotions as a human being. You can name them. Anger, blah, 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 blah. The most profound is love, right? Those are 27 emotions. If you cannot control the 27 emotions, more or less if you cannot control the 56 emotions, thoughts, how are you going to act, be seen, be understood, and be heard? So do you know those emotions? Can you name them? No. Remember, whatever you name, you take control over, right? Sorry. So if you cannot understand the 27 emotions, then you cannot be seen, be understood, and be heard. When somebody says, I fear, what is your definition of fear? Can you tell me what is fear? How does fear make you feel? Which part of the body fears actually? Right? So you can't be seen, be understood, and be heard. And the third is our physiology. Who can tell me the most profitable industry in the world today? Cosmetics. But what is cosmetics? Lost identity. Nkubanyo, but it's the fact. Lost identity. No, I'm not being a hater. I'm being honest. Because absolutely, black is all colors combined. I'm not comforting. Now, your melanin, when you stand out, you stand out. So our identity is aligned to the industry. The industry has understood that we are trying to become who we already are, and we are trying to look for things to make us who we already are. That's why you can cut off your hair and put on a wig. We ask ourselves, what are you searching for? You've read Purpose Driven by Rick Warren. Most actually is on the topmost. The second is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. What are we looking for? Religion, they tell us that heaven is somewhere. Why do you want to go where it never started? You are here. Your heaven is here. I mean, that's what I believe, entitled to my opinion. So we are searching for something that we already have. So because we do not have it, so every time you get up in the morning and somebody looks at you like they're looking at my inadequacy, they are judging me, right? So the third, which is our physiology, if you can manage the way you see yourself, you're halfway the puzzle. Because man's deepest desire is to be seen, be understood, and be heard. But being seen, every time we do what we do, we want people to see us. Yes or no? Let's have a thought that maybe my zip, my flyer is spoiled. And I come here, and the gentleman there keeps on looking down. What will I think? I'm like, yeah, I've seen it. And actually, we think people see. They don't see. Actually, they just look. So when you think people are looking at you, they are not looking at you. They have issues. Somebody can even be looking at you like this. Right? So your physiology will determine how you see, be understood, and be heard. And we have one thing that we do every morning. I look at myself in the mirror every morning, and what I see, I'm like, Gardner, you have a big nose, you have shabby hair, you meet the chocolate. I'm like, that's what the world needs. And I'll go out to be what I want. But every time you look at yourself in the mirror, actually it's not what you see. It is what you say, based on what you see. It is what you do, what you see, based on what you see. So if you come out and you're like, you need to be a little bit lighter, a small talk, then I'll go to Chizigo. So it is not actually what I'm seeing myself to be. It is what I think myself to be that the other person thinks of me that I try to become. That affects everything about you, how you show up, how you do, and how you relate. Yes or no? And that's emotional intelligence. Determines the way we are seen, understood, and heard. Simple. So how do you look at yourself? What do you say to yourself? Because every time you do actually. Not for yourself, but even for the people around you. So now you have these three concepts: the way you think, the brain, the way you feel, the heart, if you may like, and the way you look. determines being seen, being understood, and be heard. And this is what Daniel Goleman talks about emotional intelligence. The 5 pillars. Self-knowledge. Do you know yourself? Can you tell me who you are without telling me your names and your titles and the things you've acquired into this life? Me, when somebody asks me, Gardner, who you are, I say I empower minds to transform lives. That's my purpose. The others I've acquired when I'm moving this world. The second, self-management. Am I able to manage my emotions? The 27 and the 56 thoughts. Can I put them in harmony? That's what the Bible calls the Trinity. God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are one. Can you be one? Talks about now social skills. If I cannot relate with myself, I cannot relate with you. Simple. Right? And finally, the fourth, he talks about motivation. What is your purpose? What drives you? Because that power that drives you determines how you relate with people, how you're seen, how you... So what is your motivation? What drives you? Me, every morning when I wake up, I either, whether I use a taxi, I use a boarder, I walk, every person I come in contact with, I empower to transform. I'll ask you, you will tell me, and I'm like, we have a discussion. By the time you leave, you're like, I've never thought about this in this way. So what is your motivation? Why are you in that position that you're doing or you're having? What change do you want to bring forth? That should be your motivation, and that will define who you are. Now, you know yourself, you can manage yourself, you have empathy, you can relate with other people and know how they're feeling. Now you have your social skills and you have your motivation. Now when you stand out, people will say, yes, that is who he is. That means you're being seen, you're being understood, and you're being heard. And that's our deepest desire as human beings. But it goes back to the 5 fundamentals. But the 5 fundamentals cannot exist if you cannot know your thoughts and know your heart and know who you are. So my task today was to bring you the 3 pillars, the Trinity of emotional intelligence. If you can go back from here and choose, you've made my life easy, and you make your life easy. But if you leave this place and go back and think that you are, you failed me. Because you do not know yourself, you cannot manage yourself, you cannot even empathize to get to know what the other person thinks and feels. That means it will affect the way you relate, and it will affect the motivation that drives you.
Mine is just, I don't even know how to phrase it. But what happens when sometimes you I don't know if you dream something or you perceive it, then you go to a place you've never been to and you're like, I've been here before, yet you've never physically been there. So what happens in such instances?
The question lies in the answer. What is a dream? A dream, we all dream, but we cannot tell what a dream is. A dream is a continuation of your wake state. Simple. A dream is a continuation of your awake state. If you watch a movie today, the challenge is you may forget that you watched the movie, then it comes forth in 2 weeks and you cannot think. There is what we call that thing that you've been to a place and you think you've been to that place, right? Now, if we go in the spiritual world, they call it incarnation. They say that we are products of people that have been here before. They have come back in us. So they have lived the life before. I know it's a little bit timid, but that's what other people believe in. So I'm bringing it out to try to explain. There are people who believe that actually when you look at me, there was a Gardner years back who lived and died and came back. Now I'm representing him. Now for him, he has that memory. So it comes back, and for you, you've not seen it, but it's so familiar. Like, I think I've seen this place. But you can't explain it. The other, maybe you've watched it and the brain has one thing, it relates. Right? It relates. So every time I may ask you who your best friend was in secondary, you may not remember. When I say maybe she was told, but like, Asumpta. That trigger comes in and it relates and brings it. So there are 2 answers to that. Either you have seen and forgotten, or it is that incarnation of somebody who was here before you. Yes.
Doctor, also to respond to hers, they say whatever happens physically has already manifested spiritually. I'm not sure whether you relate with that. So it's possible that she's been there spiritually, maybe in prayer or something like that. I have a question. Anyway, in a nutshell, is there a relationship between emotional intelligence and maturity? I think I'll leave at that. Thank you.
What is maturity? Me, I understand things by understanding the root word and the word itself. Now it gives me a better understanding of the thing, depending on how I understand it. When we talk about maturity, ladies and gentlemen, don't be fooled by age. Maturity has nothing to do with experience, blah, 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 nothing. Maturity is allowing the rose flower to blossom and bring out the fragrance. That is maturity. But we are not mature because the society, the community, the things we do are trying to make us what we are not, right? So we are not mature. We are depending on other people. But for me, and I'm entitled to my own opinion, that maturity is accepting me to be who I am. That is my definition of maturity. If you can be who you are, I'll consider you as the way you are. That means you're mature. But if I judge you based on my own perception of who you are, I'm judging you prematurely. Yes? That's my own definition. I don't know, there are so many other definitions out there, but I don't know. Mine is, let the child be. That's why the Bible tells us, be childlike. There is a difference between being childlike and being childish. Childlike is you exploring, being curious, being naive, process by process. Yes. But being childish is you being, I won't go there. You know what I'm trying to say. You know that. But getting back on yours as you try to contribute to her, I say I'm a Christian. When you look at Genesis chapter 1, it's the idea of what the ideal world God wanted to see and bring into fruition. And Genesis chapter 2 is a manifestation. So as he says, it may be an idea, the spiritual world, and then it manifests. You're like, I've seen that car before. No, you have not. In your spiritual world, yes, you have. Anyway, yeah.
I once read a book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. So how does that relate to emotional intelligence? And if someone had a box full of negative thoughts that happened maybe to them long time ago, and they are there in the subconscious, and they sort of try to influence. So they are, okay, you feed your mind with positive for you to get, so that you feed your subconscious with positive. But sometimes the subconscious is already fed, and that happened long time ago, and you are in the process of fighting what you have in your subconscious mind, and that may affect the way you relate. Now coming back to teamwork, understanding each other, and so on. So how do you practice the power of emotional intelligence when you already have a subconscious mind which is sort of corrupted?
Now we go back. May have told you, I understand things by understanding the word. When you talk about the subconscious mind, what is the subconscious mind? No, actually it's not. I'll give you 3 things that relate to the subconscious mind. Women, you, not you. You. Anybody who has an X and Y, right? And the ground have one thing in common. They bring after their kind. Whatever you feed them, they bring back. What you feed them, they bring back. If you feed them positivity, they bring positivity. If you feed them with negativity, they bring negativity. The ground itself, when you plant a seed of a mango seed, you can't harvest a guava, right? Now, we go back to understand the subconscious mind. We have the conscious mind. Yes? The conscious mind is your consciousness, your awareness of what is, the five senses. You are aware. Now, it feeds to the subconscious mind, which receives. That's why the Bible says, whatever you think, a man thinketh, so is he. Right? What are you doing? The thoughts you plant there, they go to the subconscious mind, which will bring back its kind. They say his word does not go in vain. Everything you put there, everything you watch, at one time you will harvest. The challenge as human beings, we forget when we planted. Yes? Now the subconscious mind is more or less of the memory. It picks. If you read, that's why they tell us that an average human being should sleep for minimum, if it comes to the worst, 5 hours. Because as you awakened, now you're using your 5 senses. You're picking. When you go to sleep, it feeds to the subconscious. Now when you don't have enough sleep and that subconscious feeds or receives around 3 to 4. Actually they say 2, 3, 4. That's when dreams even happen. You know, people, if I was a pastor, I was like, I had a revelation, what time? They will tell you that time. Because the brain, the subconscious receives. It's just like a post office. It receives. And in due season, it brings forth. Now for you to be able to change what is already planted in your subconscious mind, you need to change with what you're feeding it with. Your consciousness, the 5 senses. Whatever you listen to, whatever you see, whatever you feel, it feeds. But the most of all the things is the feeling, is the taste. If you feel something, ladies and gentlemen, if you feel something, now if you feel it, you've registered it. It doesn't wait for nighttime when you're asleep. It goes. That's why eyes are called. Come, I want to feel. I want to feel. And when he felt, he gave the blessing. Right? The feeling is the test. If you watch a movie and start crying, you're finished. The movie has been registered in your subconscious mind. There's a guy in Nigeria, he did a research that during that time when Nollywood was at its epic, actually divorces and witchcraft and blah blah were at their rise in Nigeria. And the same as applies, I think, in Africa as well. Because people were seeing and they would feel and they're like, it is possible, I can bewitch him. And now they start going to witchcraft, they just blah blah blah. It all happened because they had felt that it is. So the feeling is the test. Now the only way to change your subconscious mind is to change the way you feel and what you feed your 5 senses. I have a problem. How many of us use affirmations? Affirmations to wake up and you're like, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm bright, I'm ignorant, I'm blah blah blah. I'm beautiful, I'm like. It may work, but it is a lie. You're trying to feel what you not, and the subconscious mind does not get it. Let me ask you, I've used this. Maybe the affirmations have worked for you, but let me give you another thought. Affirmations. Who knows what affirmations are? It's the difference. I don't say I am healthy. I ask myself, why am I healthy? Right? And I look at myself, I'm not sick, I don't have cough, I don't have flu, I'm blah, blah. Now, what am I feeding my brain? The affirmations. I'm telling it actually, I am healthy. And the brain works much more when you ask a question than when you affirm a question. So instead of saying I'm wealthy, ask yourself, why am I wealthy? Look at the things you have. Start with gratitude. Start with the things that you have. I'm okay. I'm renting my house. I can manage. I have data. I can have transport. I have fuel. Now, once you do that, the brain actually takes to the subconscious mind and tells it, you know what? Actually, you are wealthy. And once you do that, time up. Yeah. So once you do that, now you start to attract that of which it is. Yes. At Mind Heritage, we do 2 things, basic things. We talk to young people and we talk to adults. So, you can enroll. It's never too late to learn. I'm a life learner, that's what I consider myself. Every day I learn something. So price is a result, right? If you love something, that's why you own an iPhone of 15, iPhone 15 and it's 5 million, and you don't ask the price tag. And you're like, I can pay because you know the value, what it will bring to you. So it's a matter of knowing what you really want to better in, then we can do it for you. Otherwise, thank you very much. Let's go out, be seen, be understood, and be heard. Thank you.